UFOs are real, burgeoning, and not going away. I am your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli. This is a very special UFO update with our guest in studio, Mondo Gonzales. We'll get into that and so much more after a word from our trusted sponsor. Chances are you've been here before. The chaos in the markets, oil and stocks. Just when you thought it was safe and interest rates were rising, new threats come out of nowhere. Tensions are boiling from Asia to Europe. Adaptation is the key here to safeguarding your wealth. You may have not considered gold before, but folks, it's not speculation, it's insurance. And right now, I think all of us need as much insurance as we possibly can get. Noble Gold Investments have been protecting investors from disaster for years with precious metals. If you're worried, it might be time to take a fresh look at gold and silver. Gold is a proven safe haven shield for your portfolio and a volatility balance against uncertainty. If it helps, Noble Gold Investments is offering a free 3-ounce silver American Virtue coin with its new IRAs this month. If you open up your gold investment IRA or 401k rollover, you can claim your coin today. Remember, crisis brews, portfolios waver, gold insulates. Folks, we've done it. Gold is hitting some record highs, at least it was last week. We'll see what it continues to do. Go to noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Noblegoldinvestments.com. We've invested, and it's the only gold company I trust. Once again, noblegoldinvestments.com. So, Mondo, thanks for joining us once again. We've been in studio here just working on lots of different topics, and we want to sort of broach the topic of UFOs, UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. So let's go back about a month ago. The Congressional hearing, Representative Mace is there, and she's grilling David Grush, who's a whistleblower, and this is all military. And Grush, and there's an exchange here, and Mace says, well, did they find any human or find any remains? Did they find the pilots of these crashed UAPs? And Grush leans into the microphone, looks right up at her and says, yes, they recovered biologics. And of course, Mace follows up and asks the $64,000 question, were these biologics human or non-human? And Grush leans in, looks up at Mace and said, non-human. So when you hear that, what are your thoughts? Because this is the halls of Congress. It's not George Norrie on Coast to Coast.
What do I think about that? Well, I feel bad in many ways for the average Christian, because even amongst us as prophecy teachers, there are different perspectives on having a biologic. And basically a real physical, tangible, flesh of some kind being that's there. How do we interact with that? What do we do with that? There are some within our camp that say all of it is there's nothing physical. It's just all demonic.
Demonic delusion.
Yeah, it's there's nothing tangible, physical. Right. I don't. That's not my take on it. It doesn't bother me that there would be a physical being there, because we understand that again, when we think about the angelic world, I think the angels are not just spiritual. I think they actually have a physical component for a lot of reasons.
Let me just stop you right there. When Abraham meets the three entities, one who I believe was the pre-incarnate Christ, that's the tap out. Through your seed, all the nations of earth will be blessed. But the two guys, they all sitting there sharing a meal. They're eating. And then when they get to Sodom, the men of the city want to have sex with them. Yep. So these are physical bodies.
It's like where you think about it, maybe some of the horror movies, not horror movies, but the movies we've seen where you have a ghost that's eating and the food's going down and it's going nowhere. Yeah. They're eating. They're physical beings. Right. And so that's the important thing, is that we shouldn't be scared in one sense of recognize that there's a physical component here. The whole UFO phenomenon, I think, if we recognize that there is that physical, tangible component, and we can honor the Bible, again, not that these are good guys by any means, that they are wicked, they're evil in what we see them doing. But when Grush brought that up, that's going to be challenging, I think, for many Christians, because through tradition we've been trained to think that there is nothing else out there. And I'm not saying there's life on other planets, right. But we do have the fallen angels, sons of God, creating things and participating in tangible ways. Again, a whole big thing. What we're watching now is the setup for what we talk about as the coming delusion.
Coming great deception. And I concur with you. I think that we're in a window of time which is absolutely unprecedented. The fact that Congress is actually talking about UAPs, UFO, and the whole phenomena, and they're sort of teasing things. I know that Representative Burchett came out after a closed-door meeting and basically said, we can't even get to first base. We don't even know who to ask. So this is a managed agenda, as late Chuck Missler would say. It's a controlled narrative. There's no doubt about that. And they leach things out very, very slowly to the people. What amazes me, I've written numerous, as you know, and I'm sort of patting myself on the back, but we just finished, 7 and 8, our films on Roswell, and you and I have seen that. You know where I'm going with this. But we were out in the debris field. So there's Roswell Part 1, Exoneration, where we talk about, and we exonerate the Marcel name. That's the whole point of this, that he was a patsy, he was a fall guy. Same kind of stuff's going on 77 years later, whatever. But we went to the debris field, and we found 2 pieces of metal, and we've tested the metal. And that metal has an alloy, an aluminum alloy, that's not found on this Earth. In fact, the closest thing that comes to it is in the 6000 series, and it's not a match. And that didn't happen until 1952, 1953. So Roswell's in 47. What are those shards doing buried 4 inches below or 6 inches below the surface? So we're looking at something. In your opinion, the cat's already out of the bag. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the government has stated that the United States government has in its possession crashed UFOs or even, intact operational UFOs. What are your thoughts? Where's it going?
Yeah, that's really the thing, because you have the military contractors, which we've discussed, that have access to several parts of this. She also asked the question in Representative Mace of whether the government has been in contact and basically making agreements.
Right.
And he's like, well, I'd have to talk to that in a private room.
Yeah.
So has there been some sort of agreement? What we know is this. There's a wicked deception coming. Yeah. And I would not be surprised if there were those that appeared, again, fallen angels appearing as certain beings in order to make an agreement. You have the deep state's agenda, you have Satan's agenda, you have government's agenda. They're all out for themselves. But we know at the end there's going to be this again, great deception. What I find fascinating, and your phrase, I was talking with Billy Crone here last week because he's got a new book out on UFOs and aliens as well. But when we go up, they show up.
Right.
Now, this to me is fascinating because one of the things that we see is, okay, let me just give me a minute here on this, because I would agree with that statement, because what does the Bible say? We've been traditionally trained that, or thought that when the rapture happens, we disappear, our clothes are left on the ground, and all of a sudden there's this disappearance. Well, right. I think it's a false idea. I mean, I just don't believe that's the case, because, for example, if I was at home and I disappeared, family members would be like, where did they go? They would be looking in the closet. They'd be looking out in the cornfield. They'd be looking for us. I think that what happens, and I think there's scripture to show this, if you go back to 2 Kings chapter 2, Elijah, what does Elijah do? He goes up and he's observed. Elisha watches him get taken up. We come to Jesus. When he gets ascended,
right.
they watch him
go up. Right.
In Revelation 11, the 2 witnesses, it says, in the presence of their enemies, right. They watch them go up. And so imagine now this. The church, all of a sudden we start going up. Where are we going? We're going into the clouds, right?
To meet the Lord in the air.
To meet the Lord in the air. So imagine the whole world is watching this group of people go up into the clouds, and then, of course, we disappear into the clouds, and then out of the clouds comes a ship. My family, my friends, they're not going to say, where did Mondo go? He just disappeared. They're going to go, we know where Mondo went. He went into the clouds, and then the ship came. Right. So if we look at the biblical model, which is a witnessed rapture, like a Revelation 11, not the disappearance, that idea, there's going to be no ambiguity, which when they come down, they're going to have a message.
Folks, it's. I'm just going to leave it there. We could go on for hours on this subject, but it is the coming great deception. I do believe that we go up, they show up. That's what I'm going with. That's my belief, and I'm stuck with it, and I'm not moving from it. But we are in tenuous, unprecedented times. This is the coming great deception. Our films on Roswell, Roswell 1 and Roswell 2. Exoneration is 1. In the Debris Field is number 2. They will be available after Christmas, but we will have it on streaming site very shortly. So if you do purchase it, you'll have a special link to go to. Only if you purchase them. We'll ship the DVDs later, but if you want to watch it before you get the DVDs, you'll be able to do that on our streaming site, lamarzulli.net. lamarzulli.net, you mentioned Billy Crone. Billy's a prolific author and researcher, so I want to get his book and see what he's got to say about the phenomena. But UFOs are real, burgeoning, and not going away. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow with our last episode with Mondo Gonzales. You're going to find this interesting. It's on Psalm 19. The heavens declare the glory of God, and by golly, they do. Thanks for watching, folks.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection. Late this afternoon, a bulletin from New Mexico suggested that the widely publicized mystery of the flying saucers may soon be solved. Army Air Force officers reported that one of the strange discs had been found and inspected sometime last week. Our correspondents in Los Angeles and Chicago have been in contact with Army officials endeavoring to obtain all possible late information. Joe Wilson reports to us now from Chicago.
The Army may be getting to the bottom of all this talk about the so-called flying saucer. As a matter of fact, the 509th Atomic Bomb Group headquarters at Roswell, New Mexico, reports that it has received one of the discs which landed on a ranch outside Roswell. The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico, and the rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brizzell was the man who discovered the saucer. Colonel William Blanchard of the Roswell Air Base refuses to give details of what the flying disc looks like.